Peace and blessings, family. So there's one thing that I want to talk about in regards to the reparations argument. So I want to name this King Cotton because Cotton was king, and cotton is what got all of these countries very wealthy. So my argument is that there's plenty of other countries that co-conspired with the United States, and they're their co-defendants. Just like you do a robbery and all the people that went in that bank with you, they your co-defendants. That's the same thing for Great Britain, for France, for Germany, and Russia. All of those different countries did business with the United States when they had blacks as slaves. And they knew very well that the United States was getting stolen goods and using stolen labor in order to do business with them. And so they all are guilty for funding slavery. They wouldn't be the countries that they are now without Black Americans. Native Black Americans, the descendants of enslaved Africans, demand reparations not only from the United States, but also from Great Britain, France, Germany, and Russia. These nations were not innocent bystanders. They knowingly traded with the U.S. between 1619 and 1865. Cotton, sugar, tobacco, and rice harvested by enslaved Africans were stolen goods. Those who knowingly bought them were complicit in the crime. The wealth of Europe and America itself was built on this theft. Industries that thrive today, from textile mills in Manchester to financial institutions in Paris and Hamburg, owe their early growth to the sweat and the suffering of enslaved Africans. The United States is not the only guilty party. Every country that traded in or financed slave-produced goods was a co-conspirator or co-defendant. Yet Britain filled its mills with U.S. cotton. Manchester, nicknamed Cottonopolis, grew fat on slave-grown cotton from the American South. Liverpool banks financed slave ships and plantations. British institutions like the Lords of London insured slave voyages and human cargo. Even today, Barclays, HSBC, and the Bank of England acknowledge historical ties to slavery. Examples like tobacco, indigo, rice, naval shores, furs, deer hides, grain, flour, timber, whale oil, salted fish, meat, and leather. France still imported cotton, rice, tobacco, grain, flour, and whale oil from the U.S. German states imported cotton, tobacco, rice, indigo, whale oil, foodstuffs, salted fish, pork, grain, wheat, and corn. Russian elites debated U.S. slavery while still engaging in trade following U.S. independence in 1776. Russia imported U.S. cotton, tobacco, coffee, sugar, whale oil, and machinery. There was no secrecy. Everyone knew. They only stopped when the American Civil War disrupted the supply. So let's stop the focus just on the United States of America. In fact, I would say that we need to take our argument across seas, because maybe one of those other countries might give us reparations before the United States will. See, the United States will rather just keep us there and kill us before we could get our reparations, because they still are handling the stolen property. They still have the descendants of the stolen Africans in their possession. So what do? You got to get rid of that. When you are in possession of a gun and you know that the cops is coming, you toss the gun. So this is what they're doing, and this is the reason why a lot of Black people are being killed, being targeted by the system, being left to their own destruction in poverty, because we know that poverty creates violence. My thing is, for all the Black thought leaders, all the influencers that have an audience for Black people, so we can start focusing more on taking our argument to these other countries that owe us as well. And maybe we might get a check from one of these other countries, and that's going to make the United States look bad. And we know how they don't like to look bad. So let's get together and think of something where we could file a complaint on these other countries for our reparations. that money that they was able to accumulate through slave labor is still holding down the foundations that they laid to begin with, just like in the United States. Reparations must reflect this. In the United States, Native Black Americans should be granted sovereignty over 3 fully developed states, such as New York, Georgia, and Oklahoma, forming a new nation, the United States of African Americans. Economic compensation. The U.S. should provide an initial sum of $2 trillion in reparations. Global responsibility. Great Britain, France, Germany, and Russia must contribute reparations proportional to their role and profit from the trade of enslaved Africans. A global crime demands global justice. Slavery in America was not just America's crime against humanity. It was a global crime enabled by international demand, international trade, and international profit. I also want to tell Black Americans, like, look at what we've done. We've made all of these different countries very wealthy. Be proud of yourself. And that's one of the reasons why we need to start focus on building in ourselves, building the United States of African Americans. Because look at our potential. When I go to all of these different countries, you know who I hear on the radio? Black American. And so it's time for us to start saying, all right, even if they don't want to give it to us, we're going to rebuild ourselves. But that comes with some work. And a lot of our brothers and sisters don't seem to want to work with one another anymore. Everybody wants individual gain. Everybody want to be the chief. Nobody wants to be the Indian. And we got to get out of that mindset. We got to be able to work with one another to build something for future generations. So I say that with all due respect to my Black family. Peace and blessings. We are some phenomenal human beings. We are the ones that gave Great Britain their wealth. We are the ones that gave France their wealth. We are the ones that gave the United States their wealth. We are the ones that gave Germany their wealth. Not so much Russia. Russia did use and do business with the United States, but not at the level that these other countries did. But we helped to build Russia as well. So now it's time for us to do it for ourselves. My name is Yes Brooks, and I approve this message. Peace and blessings.